Welcome everyone. We are going to discuss some interesting case studies presented by Andrea and Judith. It will be good, I guess, for everyone to get better understanding of how brainwaves work and how the training works and like what the possibilities are, so that if you are a beginner, you'll understand better how to read, interpret brainwaves and what you may expect from the training. If you're already advanced, it's still interesting to see someone else's experience and see how other people read, interpret, understand, and approach trainings. So I pass the word to Andrea. She will be the first one today, and then Judith will continue.
Okay, so I've got two case studies, and I call these case studies the birth of the psychics. And I've got some sessions from two clients of mine, and I'd like to share them now with my screen. So this is the first one, and this is her normal brainwave pattern. So she's about 37. She's a tax expert, a kinesiologist, and you can see her ordinary brainwave pattern. Normally she's got a really high, most of the time a triple alpha, so really strong alpha waves, so a beautiful awakened mind. And if we go through her patterns, this is one of the first sessions I recorded. This is about half a year before. And then we had an interesting gamma burst. It was about 2 months later than the first session. And this gamma burst stayed, so this is just a screenshot from a session. The next session, she was coming to the gamma synchrony pattern, where she integrated this extended gamma. So here the gamma is extended, and then she found a way to integrate the gamma into the whole pattern. And we see a lot of these gamma synchrony patterns. And here her alpha is coming back, her strong alpha. Here it's a little bit less alpha. And if you watch so this is the summary of this session. You can see in the summary the whole gamma synchrony pattern. And if you watch here the mind mirror training summary, just watch these numbers here. It's a training level 4. This is the first session, and this is the second session. So that's from 21% up to 74%. And this is, I think that's really, really extraordinary. The next session, it was about 2 months later. She's coming back with her normal awakened mind state, but with a lot more of the theta delta, and it goes more into the diamond shape. So, and then I had her with this beautiful diamond and the gamma integrated, and so the whole pattern was lifted up from an awakened mind to this extended gamma and the gamma synchrony, and then to this beautiful diamond patterns here. And the next session again, wow, she's producing again some gamma. So producing gamma, lifting the pattern, integrating it, and gamma again. So that's her case. And she's doing a lot of trainings, a lot of individual sessions with me, is joining me during the group trainings. And she's got really, really extraordinary experiences where she's forced to lay in bed for half a day and to let the heat flow through all of her body and all this kind of weird things. And she really loves the process. And I'm so glad that from time to time I can measure her brain waves. So, and to watch the change in all this stuff. Yeah, so this is my first case study.
Andrea, may I quickly ask you a question?
Yes.
Because you discussed, or you presented it from the point of view of brainwaves, but what were the comments or what were the experiences, the feedback that you received from this woman while she was evolving with you?
While she had the gamma, or
yes,
what?
I don't know, just because there are these changes that you know, that are so obvious, gamma first and then kind of deepening and then integrating. I just was wondering if there were any experiences that will, accompany these patterns or explain more these patterns from her internal experience point of view?
Yeah, so there are some kind of physical changes that are not only happening during the meditation, but they're happening, not to say every day, but that will or that are happening during her normal life. And sometimes she has to stay in bed because the heat is going through whole of her body, and she has to take 1 or 2 days off and is not able to work to balance all these energies. And she's got great insights that are telling her exactly what to do and what not to do. She's rearranging her office. She's rearranging her job situation. She's becoming more and more, I think, what she really is, to get rid of her restrictions, her self, or her. So she's becoming greater, and she's growing into the real size, or that she really. And she's got really strange experiences where the smell is extraordinary, then the smell is normal again, then the hearing is extraordinary, then a day later it's back again, then she's got lucid dreams, and then it's normal again. So it's all this rearranging in the brain where from time to time it's like freak out and am I normal, and can I exist anymore, and can I go to normal office anymore? And then when it's integrated, she is able to do her normal tax stuff again, but from a different understanding.
The key from a different understanding. Those, you mean, are higher perspectives.
Yeah.
Andrea, and what kind of meditations did you do with her?
A lot of. So there's a lot of individual sessions where I don't follow a similar structure. It's just guiding her and then watch what shows up. We did a lot of Kundalini meditations, a lot of higher state meditations, pure awareness meditations, and also in the group trainings, a lot of the normal awakened mind trainings where you go through the alpha sensitization, the animal, you go through the house of doors, so that she's got all the structure, but it's added with a lot of spontaneous meditation, what shows up, and to guide her through whatever comes.
Cool.
When I have the second case study, this is a guy, and this is his normal brainwave patterns. So a really ton of theta and delta, really tons of alpha. And there are some screenshots where you can really see his extraordinary theta and delta. Sometimes his alpha peak is a little bit low, so it's kind of a trance state he's entering sometimes here. I call this, or Judith and I think we call it the ship, because it's really this bottom of a ship and then above this thing. So, and this is his normal brainwave pattern, so with a lot of deep states. And this is when he was channeling last Saturday about a place I was visiting in the US. And I just started to show him some pictures, and then he said, well, something's going on, and I think I have to close my eyes, so could you please hook me up really quickly to see what's going on, because he felt a really extraordinary sensation, and he was so interested how it looks like. And then I had this tons of gamma. So, and if you compare this one with this tiny little bit of theta to his normal pattern, that's really a huge difference. And what I realized when I looked at these patterns was this is measured about 2 years before, and here is on a scale of 7, and here I've watched him on a 30. So that's a boost. And throughout the whole session, so there is some artifact because he was sometimes talking, about his experiences, about his insights, but there's tons of gamma, gamma, gamma. And then sometimes he's producing gamma and alpha and delta. And he needs to walk after this channeling. He had to eat, I think, 1 bar of chocolate, drink 1 glass of red wine, and we had to walk out for 30 minutes. And afterwards, I hooked him up, and he still had tons of gamma. So, and for me, it's quite interesting, especially in this case, to see the huge shift in amplitude. So you can see the alpha is going up to maybe 26, and compared here, it's up on a 4. So it's a beautiful pattern that the whole amplitude is boosted 5 or 5th the size. And yeah, so even the summary is showing tons of, this is on a 50 and this is on a 30, so there's tons of gamma. So, and for me, it was quite interesting that to someone who I thought is normally more a deep state person, with this tons of gamma, there's nearly nothing of his usually deep state. So that to say that a brain is able to adjust to a totally different pattern, to these high amplitude patterns, and to get rid of his normal lovely theta and delta thing. And I always have seen an out of body with this guy. So it seems to be that he's able to shift between different states of consciousness. So to enter the deep states, to enter an out of body, and to have this high amplitude gamma.
Andrea, could I ask a question?
Yes.
What was his subjective experience once you had hooked him up and was showing so much gamma?
To the gamma? Mm-hmm. He felt like he's got downloads from down here, and very clear messages he knows that are 100% true. And he described the place where I've been, and he described the energy there, and he described how the scenery looks like, and he just saw let's say the coastline, and he described me the mountains behind, and he hasn't seen that on the pictures, and he just described me how the scenery looks like, that there is a cave, and he has seen what has happened there more than 150 years ago, and he was totally sure. And he said, I have got this experience with this being 100% sure that he has sometimes this experience. So, and I thought before it was more his deep state, so it was more his delta that was picking up this information. But as I hooked him up to that one, I saw, well, that's when he's going, or when he's having the information from gamma.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, and I could add that because I know him, that he has a job that keeps his delta on all the time.
Yeah, and a childhood.
He's a sensor. He has to sense to stay alive at his job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the gamma, is closely linked to the delta. So theta, delta amplitudes can trigger gamma in people, not necessarily and not in everyone, but they're definitely a portal to gamma. Yeah. So this doesn't surprise me a lot that he could trip through that portal and get a buzzing download like that. Because delta is going to give him the psychic to start with.
Yeah, that's it. And now it boosts his whole brain to extraordinary amplitudes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Andrea, and what you said that you showed him some pictures. I was just wondering what triggered or, helped his gamma, and what, I don't know, what pushed his thoughts in that direction that you described?
I don't know exactly. So when I've been at this place, I've felt like there's something to do at this place, because the energy in this place is really
Strange.
not a very good, very strange energy.
That means not tasty.
The energy needs, or the place needs some kind of healing or transformation, or I don't know. So I just started talking about that I was visiting this place, and that I had a headache on this place, and that I had a strange feeling on this place, and I showed some pictures, and then something grabbed him and and brought him into the energy of this place. And so I'm not sure if the pictures called him, or my talking, or if the place called him, and he was able to transform the place to a certain point, and he realized what to do, or what has to be done at this place, and that no one is able to do it on this place. And so he started to transform this place to a certain point. And then he was really, I have to go to take a walk. Give me a chocolate, give me a glass of wine, perhaps brown.
Which in a very real sense is what he does in his job.
Yeah.
He is reclaiming spaces that have been violated.
Yes.
We do best at what we're best, what we do the most and do the best.
Yes. So
that's our portal, isn't it?
In his normal life, he's cleaning landmines and bombs from the First and Second World War, and so that's maybe one of the reasons why he's here on Earth, to clean places that are determined, that need some cleaning, and he's doing this with his physical eyes, and with his huge metal bombs, and also with his psychic abilities. And I'm very curious to see what's going on with his brainwaves, because I think he's not, it's not the final, or he's not ready, and he's not at the top of his abilities, but he's moving into this direction. And to watch his brainwaves in this, not as a psychic medium that's ready and that's done reading since 20 years, but for someone who's starting and to get into this ability and to develop this abilities.
So if you were to do more meditations with him, what would you do?
That's a good question.
The thing is, because I know him, the most important thing is to clean his own stuff.
Clear all the blocks, yeah.
That's it.
So he does. He's going to the moon.
Yes. And there are some blocks. For example, he hates to use the word, I am meditating.
Mm-hmm.
So instead he says, well, I'm going to sit down and close my eyes and I do freaky stuff. So he tries to avoid the word meditation. So, but as soon as he's closing his eyes and he's doing some weird stuff, when he enters a meditative state, he can sense the smell of incense.
Whether it's there or not?
They're not there. And when he's traveling in Asia, a lot of Buddhist monks go to him and look at him and say White Buddha to him, and come and pray at his necklace. So I think there's kind of a really huge block that's combined with this meditation and being a psychic, or try to behave like a normal person. And as soon as this is cleared up, I think he'll move up to the moon or beyond.
Mm-hmm. Cosmic.
Yeah, wherever. Visit some aliens and say, hi, folks.
Yeah.
Judith, maybe this should be one of our programs. We should invite some interesting person to do some real freaky stuff during live webinar. If someone is brave enough and has enough self-acceptance of his or her, unusual abilities.
There's no limit to what we can do. Perhaps the limits of taste. The good taste. That's it. You have a third one, Andrea? You have a third person? Okay.
That's the two ones that I wanted to show you.
Okay. Well, then if you'll back out of your screen share, I'll share my screen.
Yep.
Hey, Judith.
Yeah, John, hi.
I'm sorry, I still can't make my camera work. I just had a quick comment for client number 1. I think when I hear about a lot of heat showing up that puts somebody in bed, I usually bring up either running microcosmic orbit out of Qigong, or there's a simpler one that's a shorter circuit from the kidney water up to the heart fire and circling back around in a short circuit so that you're moving the energy. My history is ER, and because I think, like your second client, you got to run a lot of delta in order to know what's going on with people fast. Sometimes I pick up heat energy or different kinds of energies and really not have time to say, oh, I got to take a break, have some chocolate and a glass of wine. But if you cycle it either in the big orbit, that's really, really fast if you practice it, or really powerful for a lot of heat or a lot of cold is to alternate between the heart fire and kidney water, and just a little, an oval energy movement, but it's moving with your mind. I don't know what that does to the EEG, but most heat cold is run from the brainstem and below. So I don't know that it will be reflected in EEG.
Yeah, thank you.
It should do. It should reflect in the delta. I'd be curious to see if the woman has any warning about when she's going to go into one of these Kundalini things.
Well, one of the things I learned from Michael Wynn, we talked about when Jim McRitchie was on, is that Michael Wynn this is the guy who translated Mantak Cha's Qigong books, the first half dozen of them, 30 years ago. But he was doing Kundalini, and one of the funny things about Kundalini and their practice, which you'll see in the Sikhs, is they wrap the turban around their head. But the tendency is to, in his view, waste a lot of energy out the head. Whereas running the orbit, the microcosmic orbit, you're recycling the energy and you're beginning to train your system to manage that energy so that it doesn't just get turned into incapacitating heat, but it informs your whole system of the flow and how to put it to work, if you will.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's a good idea. We have Anna's microcosmic orbit, but Jim McRitchie has got one also that's a bit different. I mean, Andrea and I were just recording a lot of higher state meditations that work with light and the energy system. And I put at the end of every single one of them, please be sure at the end of this meditation to redistribute the energies that have gathered in your head, and send them all the way down to circulate in every organ and all the way down to the ends of your fingers and toes, because it's really important to distribute those energies and not just potentially burn up.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Judith, and, my template people who do ceremonies that lift also lots of energies, they would just simply say, if you can get outside and sit on the ground for a while until you feel that you're not dizzy anymore, you're fully grounded and confident, you can move on and, drive a car, go home. But before that, you better just sit down and ground yourself.
Yeah, probably both would work. That's a good comment, John. Thank you.
Welcome.
So you want to see this guy that I'm going to show you in much greater detail, simply because this is a demonstration of mind mirror principles through the brain waves of someone whose brain behaves in all the predicted ways. And he proves the theory, and the only way I can show it to you is by going through the sessions one by one. I'm not going to, drag it out, but it's not synthesized like Andrea's was, because I want to show you the details. I want you to see the patterns, and in seeing the patterns, this will help people with pattern recognition also. So I'll share my screen. Here we go. And the first one we're gonna, well, first of all, as I pull up the first session, I want to just say a little bit about him. He's a absolutely delightful man named Garth Fisher, who drove here from Wisconsin for 2 days to get to my retreat house here in Virginia, which is where I am now, and to just spend seminar, 4.5 days of the first seminar with me. And he just wanted to explore his brainwaves. And we had talked ways back, and I hadn't really got any details. All I knew was that he was a social worker. So in the end, and so he arrived here on a Saturday night when Peter Burke, who was taking seminar 1, was on his way out from that seminar. And so Peter had to hook somebody up to do a brainwave profile, and Garth was here. So Peter did a quick brainwave profile with Garth on Sunday morning, and then stepped onto his plane and went back to Esalen. And so the first thing I'm going to show you is the brainwave profile, which we did before I actually got to do my intake with Garth. So this was a really interesting thing, because I didn't know Garth's actual background besides that he was a social worker. So I didn't completely understand what I saw in his brainwave. So I'll give you the background and what he said during his intake, that he brought his curiosity. He'd done a lot of different kinds of meditations in the past. And in fact, he had been, after graduating from Wheaton College, or maybe during that time, he had done some biofeedback experiences with Joe Camilla, and had gotten very interested in neurofeedback and biofeedback, and also hypnosis. And even as far as back as the 60s and 70s, he had worked with people in Madison, Wisconsin, who had a GSR and hand temp and pulse meters. So he would make up his own charts and protocols and attend conferences, and just kind of on his own study how this worked, because his question was, how do you help people change? And he ended up bringing all of that into his social work practice. And so those were some of the things that he had done in the past. And besides his curiosity about what had developed in neurofeedback and biofeedback since his early experiences with it, he wanted to identify internally when he was in certain states, to be able to drop into whatever autobiographical or unconscious information that might be useful for him to retrieve. And then he wanted to see whether the mind mirror work, the awakened mind training, might be useful for him to translate to other people in the next 3 to 5 years. He is in his 70s, so he has just retired, but has been asked to become a consultant for the mental health network that he works for. So he's really deciding on whether to do that or not, because he loves to camp and he loves to hike, and he goes on these great treks all over the place. And so he's trying to decide whether he's going to go back, take the mind mirror in, try to get it into that network, which would be fantastic for us, obviously, or whether he's just going to go and meditate. Now, he has done a ton of meditation. starting after Freudian psychoanalysis through his work with Vipassana retreats, relaxation meditations, workshops for walking and sitting meditation, and then self-hypnosis, and then for fun he did rock climbing and bicycling, canoeing, and backpacking, but did it in a more meditative way where he realized that it was putting him in a really interesting state of mind through the repetition and the breathing, the silence and the isolation and listening to nature. So I didn't know any of this, which might have predisposed me to looking for higher states in him when Peter was doing this meditation with him, this brainwave profile. And for you, John, because you won't know what this involves, is first there's a whole bunch of things that you do for about 15 minutes with eyes open that's diagnostic, where you're having a conversation with the person, then asking them about the stressors in their lives, and then you ask them, well, you elicit empathy from them. You're checking their beta, their activities of their delta, seeing whether they've got the curve at the top that means you're going to see an awakened mind, or whether they've got the freak out, high amplitude beta. And then you get down to math and eyes closed and math eyes closed. And then on the second sheet you go of drawings, drawing blanks, you go into a series of things that start with relaxation, and then progressive relaxation, and then listening to images for a series of colors, red through purple. And then you, by then, have exposed them to the colors that gradually are taking them, by the time they get to blue and purple, into their theta waves. So the colors are alpha, and the blue and purple has the potential to take them down into their theta. So there's a good chance that during the visualization, where you leave them alone for 5 minutes, that they are going to produce an awakened mind pattern. And that's what you're really working up to throughout this whole brainwave profile. So I didn't know that I might, as he pointed out during the intake later, run into emotionally charged things, or that he had that much meditation, hypnosis, and higher state experience. So I'm just sitting really not watching to make sure that Peter can take off and do this brainwave profile and the independent study work well enough on his own. But after only a few days training, I ended up being the one drawing the most of the sketches of the brainwaves, and Peter doing a superb job of guiding, and not having to guide the meditation also let me do some really good drawings, which surprised me more and more as we got farther and farther along. So we started out here with what looked like to me some pretty unstable, and I didn't mean to do that, unstable and disorganized brainwaves. And I thought, well, you know, he's just driven from Wisconsin for 2 days, so we might see that, and without any big surprise, and also not knowing that it could or should be otherwise, given his background. I said, okay, yeah, he's got some alpha flares, and they're coming in and out, and let me just slow it down so you can see what I'm talking about, disorganized. All right, so here I'm moving it forward 1 minute at a time. This is during the eyes open section. And I'll go out to like 17 microvolts so you can see the whole pattern. No alpha, a flare at 19 and 15 beta. Oh, where'd the 19 and 15 go, and where did that delta come from? Okay, no alpha, no alpha, no alpha. Where's the rest of the pattern? The amplitude is dropping. So there are a lot of changes here. And what is that 38 gamma doing there? So there's a lot of what we call disorganization and instability, where horizontal bands will flare out more on one side than the other, and where the bands within the cluster, the beta, alpha, theta, and delta cluster, are not operating together. But still, this was eyes open, so I thought, you know what, not a big deal. And this right here is while he's talking about stress. But notably, there's rounding at the top of this pattern on most of the time. In fact, I can take the gamma off and you can see that that's more rounded than the stress pattern you would expect with a high frequency beta. So I'm thinking, okay, got an ordinary mind here. Even though it's not, some of these are not bad patterns for eyes open. I mean, the alpha is flaring in and out, which is kind of unusual. That's a very nice pattern there. I was watching him on gamma, and I would have said gamma synchrony, but I didn't have any idea that he might be a gamma person. So I'm thinking, okay, let's see what he does in relaxation. So we just go over here to about 15 minutes. And he's still not very organized and stable at this point. But you can see that his amplitude has decreased. So I'm zooming in now from 17. I could actually go to, what, 9 microvolts to watch him. And you can see the same thing. Okay, there's this gamma pushing out here on the left. There's more alpha here than over here. The theta's out here. So I'm saying, okay, we're going to have a lot of work to do here this week. But then we go over to yellow, the color yellow, at 26 minutes. And the pattern starts to change and become more profound. I think he said, I wouldn't swear to this, but I don't have it in my notes, but I think he said that something about some yellow daffodils, that he flashed on that. Now his patterns are becoming more interesting. There's more activity in theta, you can see. This is quieter up here at the top of the pattern. And he's got a lot of delta, and he's had a ton of delta. And then he has a flare like this, high amplitude flare, and I'm thinking, what is going on with this fellow's brainwaves? And then he shows something like this upturned delta. Let me find it again. After this big flare of who knows what that was, I didn't at the time. He shows this evolved mind flare on the right, and now I'm sitting up in the seat and saying, whoa, wait a minute. And then he's got an evolved mind showing here at the bottom, and he's only at 3.6 on the Lesh. You don't really see evolved mind flares show up till maybe a high 4, maybe a 5, certainly a 6. But now I'm really watching him and saying, wait a minute, is that gamma up there? And I'm thinking, wait a minute, maybe he's not talking to himself, and maybe that is gamma. He's got a very low pulse rate at 45, ranging from 45 to 60. It's kind of a jumping pulse rate, but the pattern is really settled down and calmed down. Although, if this is real gamma, I'm thinking to myself, it's doing its usual job of potentially disorganizing the pattern, and maybe I'm thinking by now that's why the pattern is disorganized in places. So we get over to 29 minutes, and now we're in the blue theta, and now you start to see the alpha way more stabilized as he dives in. And this is really our major thing we're saying here with Awakened Mind Training. The deeper you go, the more symmetrical you become, the more organized the brainwave pattern, the more stable the brainwave pattern, and the more stable the alpha bridge. And you can see here, he's inside the blue and the purple, and he is totally stabilized. And I'll tell you later what he was doing at this time. But beautiful patterns here, beautiful awakened mind patterns that are resembling gamma synchrony, but I'm still not knowing his background, so I'm thinking maybe he's just got a busy beta. So we get over to 3220, that area here, in the self-guided meditation. Now, by then, he's at 4.3 on Lesh, which says a meditation, but really for these brainwaves, you would expect to see more Lesh. Right there was a lovely evolved mind. I gotta find it again on the right. There, you see it starting to form right there with what looks like a gamma synchrony pattern on the left. Now, at this moment, I'm not talking at all. He's meditating on what he would like his life to be like if it were exactly the way he wanted it to be. So Peter leaves. We don't even have time to fill out the third page of the brainwave profile, which analyzes the patterns you've drawn and the data that I'm going to show you in a moment to understand what will be the client's next training steps. So I said, well, you know what? I saw all that delta to begin with, so why don't I bring up dominant frequency? Whoops. So I said dominant frequency. Okay, it seemed like I saw it mostly on this activity, mostly on the left gamma. And so I just left clicked and right clicked to go in display mode and put in the trend line. I'm not going to bring up a right brain dominant frequency, so I can just use the down arrow key to size up the data. And sure enough, what in the world is happening here? Well, here's all of his delta. Now, dominant frequency, John, is an average between the lowest value and the highest. That's this red trend line we're looking at right now. Is that average? But you would expect to see the average at that the dominant frequency would be the alpha peak, the strongest amplitude peak at 10.5. But whoa, look at his dominant frequency. It's way down here in the low frequencies of delta. And I went, okay, that's exactly what I thought was happening, but what on earth happened here when his dominant frequency did this big rise? So I markered off this whole area right in here, really, although the dominant frequency stayed high, but it really started to drop here. And I looked at my drawings. Oops. It's hard to talk and walk at the same time, isn't it? Looked at my drawings and said, okay, what was he doing? Well, turns out that this was right when he was doing the, let me double check it before I say it. Yep, this was the start of the relaxation. So the relaxation started and his frequencies of consciousness increased, which was a little bit odd and made absolutely no sense to me at all, except that they were moving back up to where they should have been in the first place, with alpha being dominant. So he had some very serious delta. We were talking about your friends sensing delta, and so did this man. Now, what he didn't tell me until later, and made complete sense of this, is that he's been going to spiritualist meetings for 12 years, I guess. And the spiritualists teach you how to basically tune into other people and give psychic readings. And so then, well, as soon as he told me that, I go, okay, then that totally explains why the delta is so present and so dominant, because he's got this psychic stuff and he's sensing and rising in his frequencies only when he gets involved in the colors and bringing up his alpha, which is exactly what you would expect. So it was either here, strong vigilance, hypervigilance, psychic awareness, or his field connection. And I knew that that was something to watch, and better watch that with him. His Lesh state, as high as it got, all the way to the end of this meditation, was 4.8. And there were a lot of profound patterns for 4.8. So that was also something I wanted to watch. What would make him relax down into the 6, which is where his brainwaves were? So the next meditation was perfect for finding that out, because it was the river of life. And the river of life is not just a long relaxation that helps you get a good baseline for just how far the person can relax. But it also, in this particular meditation, has language like the river is flowing ceaselessly into ever more abundant life, just where you know it can go, just where you want it to go. So there's the potential for you to move into a higher state as you begin to realize that you have just relaxed yourself down into getting out of your own way, and wow, what's this place? You know, what's this higher state place that you're just finding yourself in? And so so that's exactly what happened for Garth. He had all these gorgeous patterns that started out, picked up with the stability he had gained in the brainwave profile, and both through the colors and the sensualization, where you're having your own meditation. And he had this lovely awakened mind pattern to start with that was really more of a awakened mind with, we'll just scroll through, there it is, an awakened mind with a significant amount of alpha that he had managed to keep from that meditation. Wasn't in his brainwave profile earlier on, but by the end he had gained that. And he is, I found that his brainwaves were freakily responsive to instructions. I would say, and relax, and then this beta would go and just kind of disappear. And I would say, let the energy move down into your back and spine, and you would see this big delta flare as the beta or gamma or whichever it was at the time released. And so he had these very cool patterns and throughout the whole thing. And because it was all this meditation, I didn't have to marker it or anything. I could just go straight to the mind mirror summary. And discovered that he had enough rounding of his pattern to have gotten an evolved mind rewards on training level 5 at 48% of the time. And that's where I then saw his gamma synchrony, high scores for gamma synchrony, and went, okay. And then we had a conversation about his spiritualist experiences. And so here he is with this gorgeous gamma synchrony pattern. Isn't that a beauty? Totally symmetrical, and looks just like the awakened mind, except, right, it would look not so good unless you factor in this gamma and say, okay, the gamma has pushed out that 38, but boy, it's rounded and it's pretty. And so his scores, if we tap accumulate statistics, 83% awakened mind on training level 6, but that's not where his power was. It was down in the gamma synchrony on training level 5. Now this time, he reported that he felt like he had a Lesh, an actual deeper Lesh state. And indeed, he did get to a better Lesh state, way down at 6. He went all the way to 6 this time. And that deep relaxation is such a key for us, because we find over and over again that, as Max Cade said, higher states are not possible unless first you have symmetry, and you've got to go deeper and lower to get into those higher states. And that's just what Garth did. He 15 minutes, the river takes you where you want it to go, just where you need it to go. I'll show you his pretty patterns. Really nice and stable patterns. Very different from the ones you saw to begin with. And the gamma really shows up. You see the rounding. And so he really resonated with that, and said about this meditation that he got very physically relaxed and emotionally calm, to the point where there was almost a physical hollowness eventually. And then he went into some kind of observing, then processing, then observing mode. And he said that at the end, what he landmarked, and I'll show you where he landmarked it, because it's pretty cool to watch, is 2245. And you'll see that he landmarked some really great brainwave patterns. And he said that what he landmarked was the sensation or the image of a periscope that went up in the top of his head into a stream of light that came into his brain. And here's his gamma patterns. Look at that gamma in there. Now, I've got him on 9. With the voltage change, we could go even to 7 probably. So aren't these sweet patterns? Big gamma up here, big theta to match his alpha, an upturn on the left. Then you see his delta reach out, but still a lot of activity up here in his gamma at the 38 and 30. And almost an awakened mind here, but with the gamma. And so this is where Oksana's summary plot starts to serve us. When I was with Oksana in Australia, she said one day, well, what if I miss the patterns? What if I'm watching and I'm drawing a pattern and a great pattern happens in the meanwhile and I don't see it? And how will I know what I missed? And she said, well, I wish you had. And so I gave this to Steve Clark, and Steve Clark said, took a long time to get it done, but it was well worth the wait, because now we can click on this gamma synchrony, which is this beautiful pattern that we saw that Garth has produced. If I can go, whoop, whoop. Right, there it is back here. Our classic gamma synchrony pattern. And Garth has got rewards at training level 3 for gamma synchrony, which is pretty extraordinary. It's extraordinary when you get any rewards at 4, much less high rewards at 4. And when you get a lot of rewards at 3, something serious is going on there. So I was able, thank you, Oksana, to be able to go to this mind mirror summary plot, and just to show you, you see it best really when it's bigger, and say, okay, where did he get the most rewards? Okay, so I click here at the beginning of this series of spheres, and that, according to the second timer clock, is at 1420, and then I say, okay, well, let's catch the tail end, and that's at 1808. And then what was he doing during that period of time? And since I don't remember, I have to actually look at it and see. 1420, 1808. This is when we were moving into the ever fuller life. The idea that deep down within you is this river that's taking you where you're going. And to ever fuller life. The river is so still, so restful, filled with peace. Well, during that period of time, he was actually working on something, which is what that gamma synchrony pattern is really for. And what he realized was that his right hemisphere of his brain, because he could feel the energetic activity in it, was way more active than he had realized in various EEG assessments throughout the years. And then he started working on a question that was uppermost in his mind, and had to felt like he wanted to figure out while he was here. And while he was working on that, he realized where to focus, where in his brain waves, his mind, his skull, and life to focus his inner attention. He's a very smart man. So he was making some wonderful mental connections. So while we're here, we can just say, well, where were his evolved mind patterns? Well, he had a ton of them too. And training level 4, especially, I didn't actually look at this before, but that would be 921 through 1007. What was he doing then? He was taking the energy down into his back and spine, and he had evolved mind flares at the bottom where his delta turned up, which is right in his body where he would be taking the energies. So again, we see how wonderfully expressive he is of the mind mirror patterns. At the end, he had the sense of where, had the understanding of where the sensation of light focused in his brainwaves, and he had directed that light around his body and knew that it was related to some level of spiritual awareness. Well, certainly it would be with a Lesh state 6 and a gamma synchrony at 81% on training level 5. And so then we go to the animal centralization, and that is just an alpha meditation where you're going to be looking during the course of the meditation into what it is that you can find out about yourself. So you're going to get and stabilize the alpha through a bunch of questions and an experience being an animal. We've actually done this meditation on one of our webinars. And then while you're asking yourself these questions, you're going to dive into theta. And here he showed the exact same gamma synchrony patterns. Just beautiful gamma synchrony. Which is gratifying to me, since I came up with the idea and the pattern from looking at Oksana and Andrea and Jill and other people, you know, who have this gamma. Same pattern, very few differences. So I'm thinking, okay, well, he is going to be actually operating in this gamma synchrony pattern. But what was really important about this was that he's stabilizing his brain waves. Now he's got 85% gamma synchrony on training level 5, and his awakened mind is 65%. Very high scores for both of them, and really steady, stable patterns. And he can feel the difference. And what's more, possibly the most important thing about this particular meditation was that I saw more and more of these right hand evolved mind flares. Even what to eat, where do you live, an evolved mind flare, and how do you move, an evolved mind flare on the left. How do you communicate, a diamond on the right and an evolved mind flare right after it? And he said, well, I felt the sound. He said, I said, what made you happy as this animal? He said, not being hungry or sleepy, living in a kind of resting peace, just lounging around in trees. And so you can see that these are lovely awakened mind patterns here, every single one of them. But then all of a sudden at 7:01, he went into a kind of gamma jolt, and he felt it where something happened somewhere right around here. And I just asked him, what makes you feel strong and powerful? Actually, it's 6:35. Let me get the attenuation set up. That's close enough. All right, so we can go down to 9 to watch him. And see, you can see the diamond that was just there, this diamonding here. And what we've learned from neurofeedback people is, well, we already know about the evolved mind. That's uniquely ours. But what neurofeedback people have told us, since we've been talking to them, some of whom are mind mirror owners, about this diamond shape, is that what's actually happening is they call this the alpha theta crossover, because alpha drops in peak frequency. In this case, you can see he's dropped from 10.5 microvolts to 9 microvolts, and that stimulates the alpha. I mean the theta, the top band of theta, for us, the top band of theta, which starts to reach an amplitude closer to the alpha amplitude. And so that's really cool, because you get this lovely diamond, and it's going to lead to evolved mind flares. And he could feel that happening. He felt his internal strength and courage, and his instinctual and muscular strength. And every time he felt something like that in this whole period, which lasted from 7 minutes to almost 9 minutes, when he was sensualizing being an animal, he had these higher state patterns, which you would expect, because he's contacting his human power through the concept of being an animal. So he finds his qualities and characteristics, which turn out to be something very unexpected for him. Now, this is something I want to show you. His qualities and characteristics are assertive and forceful. They said that he tends not to be that. But when he imagined himself in the future being that, he found that he was more energetic and forward-looking. So that was something that he really appreciated and liked that. So right in here is where he is doing the strong and powerful, is right when he started doing it. So watch this pattern. This is very cool what happens. So we'll go through it one at a time. Okay, here it goes. So he's dropping down. He's starting to drop down into his 9 hertz alpha P. There it goes right there. Maintaining his pattern. Goes back up to 10.5. He's kind of finding his way around. He has an evolved mind flare right here. Evolved mind at the bottom there. And then he has this big flare of delta on the right. Big evolved mind there. Evolved mind there. And now he's dropping further and down into his delta. And if one wanted to talk about holograms, you could say, as a story that might have some validity to it, you might say he's dropping into his animal nature down in delta and down in theta and delta, which is where that brainstem is, which is managing the autonomic nervous system and the body. So watch what he does. He's just going to go kerplunk in a minute. And his theta and delta. Am I on the right timing? Well, let's just go ahead and play. evolved mind flares. Zoom in a little bit. And his theta, here you go, more delta, more theta, and his gamma starts to come into play. Evolved minds, all this, just imagining himself being strong and powerful, contacting that part of himself down in his subconscious and unconscious mind that knows he possesses those qualities and is experiencing them and is experiencing bringing them out and what that would look like in his life. So he has a real aha that triggers his gamma. And in fact, on the mind mirror summary, I could see that that's where his gamma had a major increase in amplitude. So just to continue with the general story on Garth. So by now I know that he's a spiritualist, and he's telling me that, well, he had some goals for this time together. One was that he wanted to do a higher state meditation, which we did do, and I'll show you. And then another one is that he had brought two types of binaural beat music and wanted to see what they were going to do with his brainwaves, which turned out not to be so useful to him. One of them anyway. And then he wanted to do a reading, a psychic reading, and see what that looked like. So things got pretty darn interesting here, as if they hadn't been interesting enough already. So let's see. Reading. Here it is. To begin with, everything he said was dead on. Now, he knew some things about me by then. This is, I guess, the second day. But most of what he said, he definitely did not know, because we were really studying hard the patterns and the software and everything. So I was not letting on hardly anything about myself. We didn't hook him up to the GSR or the BVP because I knew that he would be talking and the readings wouldn't be any use to us at all. But what's interesting about this session, of course, he's producing the same patterns that now turn out to be his gamma synchrony. Was right here, he starts channeling on gamma, on the subject of what gamma is. And I thought you guys might be kind of interested in hearing some of what he said, especially because his gamma increased immensely the whole time he was talking about gamma. He like connected with the essence of gamma, which fed back into his brain waves. He said that gamma is like a door opening. And this is when his gamma moved out to between 23 and 27 microvolts at times. And that delta is more instrumental and connected with the earth, that it's played a part in our evolutionary roots of consciousness. Delta was like tree roots, personal, and was related to our personal and archaic history. And again, you could see that as the root chakra, and this pattern, then that would certainly be this big delta that I saw with him a lot, and that he's certainly using as a spiritualist channeler. I mean, sometimes his delta was 40 and 50 microvolts. He says, but gamma comes up and speeds out like healing, spreads out like healing balloons, untethered and rising up into the sky, that the string stretches out. It's always been there, but now there's a possibility of tuning into it and developing now our possibility of tuning into it and developing skills is expanding. He said, yes, that is definitely the way to go. Of course, we know that, but it's nice to hear somebody say it. He says the gamma is like the balloon in the stratosphere. And he said that if he were doing a reading and he got into the Akashic records, well, that would be gamma. This is just distracting. So what I'm going to do is draw up a, let's look at his right brain gamma this time. Cha-cha-cha. There it is. All right. That'll get us a trend line. So he starts talking about this gamma at well, I was right on it. 24 minutes. So let's find that. 24 minutes is right here. You can see the rise in the line. And my timing may not be exactly right. And he stopped talking at the gamma about the gamma. I asked him a few questions. Suggestibility about the gamma. Somewhere around 35 minutes. Which should be right there. Is that right? Yes, that is right. Right about here. So put this marker in here. We had another big gamma bump after that. But if you look at this low line here and these high lines here, you can see that the gamma rose to begin with. The whole time he's talking about gamma. Now here, what was he talking about there? I didn't see this last night. That would be between he's talking about the Akashic records. He's saying that gamma is a timeless space, a space without time, that there's a mixture of things in gamma, of vibrations in gamma, that if you do a test, that there's a suggestibility in gamma. He said it's not all clean, and I've certainly seen some gamma producers who were not all clean, but he said that gamma is cream colored, and above it is an actual light, clean white light. So gamma is the astral, the emotional, to be cautious there, and that there's a clean diamond light above it. So that's what he's saying all in here. Oh no, this is all gamma. All of that's gamma, all the way to 39. Yeah. All right, so this too is the gamma. I beg your pardon. Sometimes I confuse myself. All that's gamma. It stops talking about gamma, and then gamma goes back down to the norm. Now, it's not a ton of difference. If you take the little green guy with the left click, that's 2.5 microvolts of gamma going at the top end to over 4.5 microvolts of gamma. And what I've seen, I don't know about you, Andrea and Oksana and Jill, but I've seen that 1/2 of a microvolt of gamma a person feels and experiences a profound change. That's when they start having sensations of light and feeling like they're part of something bigger. And he certainly was part of something bigger, because he was reading very good and accurate things for me. And he said that consciousness is, that it's like a radar system up in gamma, that consciousness is coming from there. And for a medium, it's like getting other dimensional inputs. It also contains information related to the scientific and cognitive. And certainly we know that from gamma's connection with attentional awareness. And then he said that it's like a hose nozzle, that you can get a feeling of being waterlogged at the back of your head as if your body is drowning. Sometimes I'm around gamma people and I get a serious headache, and that's exactly how I feel, waterlogged and kind of drowning. And that's when I have to do what Oksana says and run outside and ground or ground from the bottoms of my feet or whatever. He didn't have a lot of great scores in his mind mirror summary here, and that kind of puzzled me. And actually, I'll throw this out to you guys and see what you think about it. And his eyes are closed throughout this reading, although he is talking. So you're going to expect to see more gamma and beta because he's talking. He's mentally processing. It's not going to be like somebody's in a meditation and has that nice rounded gamma beta. It's going to be a different shape of gamma beta. So let's look at this pattern. And the thing that strikes me about it first is that if you increase the alpha, maybe to about this much, you would have a typical looking gamma synchrony pattern. But there's not that much alpha in there unless you look at this gamma as being a talking out loud and a channeling gamma. And if you did that, then you'd have to say, well, then that's a heck of a lot of theta and delta for that amount of alpha. Or you could look at it the other way and say, well, you know, there's not a lot of alpha for that theta and delta. We know it's not an ordinary consciousness pattern because there wouldn't be any alpha, and your beta gamma would be going like this, right? So it's a different pattern. I will say though that in the drawings, I did see a lot of typical channeling patterns that look like a Christmas tree. I'll show you like one or two of these so you can see that, again, our theory proves true. And look at the size of the delta. It's huge. So his typical channeling pattern, and big gamma is bursting in there. Big theta, big delta, upturned delta at that. Looking for a particular gamma synchrony with a ton of gamma up in it. And so the typical channeling pattern is shaped like a Christmas tree, more like that, where you have an alpha and then you have a theta that exceeds the alpha, and usually a delta that exceeds the theta, but in this case his is upturned because he's drawing the information in at that time. That's actually a bit more like it right there. That is it. So theta, alpha, bigger theta, bigger delta. So he had a ton of channeling patterns, but I don't really know what to make of this one, and I'm just curious as to what any of you think. What's the pattern look like to you? Andrea?
Hard to say.
There's the rub. And this is the trouble we have, and everyone has, not just us, is that you have got to look at the SEMG artifact amplitude, and if it's above 5, then you can't trust it. But check it out, it's not above 5. See that? So even though he's talking, he's not creating any artifact. He's talking quietly enough, and I'd asked him to be sure not to move his head while he was talking. So it's not from talking. Looks like real gamma to me. Mega gamma. I mean, this is at 10 microvolts. So if we go in here and say, okay, this is a 5 microvolts of alpha, and you know what Max Cade said, that if you don't have 5 microvolts of gamma, then you're making things up. Well, he's got more than 5 microvolts of alpha, but he's also got this gamma, which Kate suspected might come up in future, but hadn't come up by then. But he's got a ton of theta and an upturned delta. I don't know, we might be looking at a new pattern here for an active channeler. And I don't know that we have got a pattern for an active channeler, because all of our patterns are channeling patterns with people with their eyes closed in meditation. And again, lots of gamma synchrony patterns at training level 3. So the guy was rocking and rolling. And so what are you going to do with somebody like this after that? Well, cool things. After this, we went on to do the House of Doors. Now we're going to get into a different level of consciousness, a different level of perception anyway. So by now he's got totally stable patterns. He's operating in his gamma synchrony with this right brain evolved mind all the time. Just lovely, lovely patterns, very high scores. Because of the cumulative effect, you see, of intensive trainings one after another. Most of you know this because you've experienced it for yourself and led other people in it. So I looked at his mind mirror summary for the whole session and saw that in the summary plot, the most gamma synchrony rewards he got was for the period when he was in doors number 1 and 2. And for anyone not familiar with the House of Doors meditation, you go into an environment, you go into meditation, you imagine a house. The house, you walk through the house, beautiful gamma synchrony pattern. Check it out every single time. You go into the house, then you go through a series of doors. So when we go to the doors, this is patterns. I mean, he's just gamma synchronying all over the place at training level 3, just pretty constantly, but especially in this period right here that we're in. Let me just double check. I don't want to misspeak. That would be 1719 through 2117. And sure enough, that's doors number 1 and number 2. So I said, well, what was going on in those 2 doors? And he said some really interesting things. In door number 1, he was having a reunion with people who had passed away. And there was some sadness there for him. He was catching up with people and pets that had died and having sort of a conversation with them. And in door number 2, he was getting worked on by a big angel. His parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles showed up. And actually, he said that he was just at their headstones on the way to visit here. So perhaps that predisposed him to visit them during this meditation. But then something interesting happened right after that, where he said that at the close of the meditation, he was sitting on some steps going down to the sidewalk, and there was a channel from there to the present. And he sensed a continuity of energy from then in the meditation to now, so that there were no breaks in the energy. I wish Garth could have joined us. He had intended to, but the timing didn't work for him. He's going to have to watch it later. And I know I had already asked him for permission to do this, so I can say that he said that as he moved up the channel of energy, that he got filled up with life experiences, and that he could go into that channel and tag on a time frame, that it was like a life review, but it felt very firm, and that felt very good to him. And he said that when he dies, that he's going to open that door, and all of those people are going to be there waiting for him, and that they just made that agreement. And that felt really good to him. Because he had been speaking to them in the last 5 years. but this time the reunion was visceral, and that the angel part was very strong, that the light was very, very strong and more diffused than any experiences with light that he had had before. We went then to a personal transformation meditation where he had his best scores yet, because he's using that gamma synchrony, the best scores with the gamma synchrony and the best scores with the awakened mind. And he worked on a personal issue and said that that meditation felt deeper than the House of Doors. I'll just go to his mind mirror summary. Now, I'm not saying too much about his Lesh scores because you can see from the screen they're at 5.8 and 6 consistently. And so he said that the personal transformation, the part that he was working on, that meditation felt deeper than the House of Doors. And he had started becoming precognitive to the instructions in the meditation. So before I said shine a light came on and flushed through his auric field, and that this integration process began. Again, you see his beautiful gamma synchrony pattern, just terrific scores. Gamma synchrony 74%, awakened mind 53%, and 51% at training level 4, which is truly extraordinary. I mean, anything at training level 4, but a big score like that really says that he was using that light that he discovered to be in the top of his head, whether it was connected by a periscope or a channel with a timeline that he felt going out from his body into the past and into the future. It was always some kind of integration process happening for him. We did the bubble, but he didn't really get a lot out of the bubble. But he did out of this personal transformation. And, he's a social worker, so he does a lot of work on himself. So for this to prove Gestalt way beneficial for him was really very cool. He said that there was a big spike of energy that started before the meditation. They had a better sensualization and a voice that said, "Hi, Garth, this is Garth, the other Garth." And he worked on the issue for a childhood issue, sat on a bench, looked out in a valley, and the sensation was very vivid, and he integrated the two Garths, and fullness became his key word, his landmark. But it wasn't just an integration of the two parts of him, that he felt this hollowness again that he had reported earlier on in his meditations, where he felt that he was filled up with light, he said, and had these experiences like flushing and cleansing and emptying, and that what was really happening was an integration of his body and mind with himself as the observer, and that sometimes he was involved in that process of melding together. And that's exactly what gamma synchrony is, right? I mean, it is higher frequencies that a lot of people don't experience. And when those higher frequencies come in, typically at the crown, although some people experience them in the heart, there is a flushing, there is a cleansing, where neuroscientifically the whole brain is synchronizing and becomes the organizing principle. So the observer becomes more awake to itself and awake to its relationship with the rest of the body-mind, which would be the rest of the awakened mind pattern with this big gamma at the top. At the end of this personal transformation, he said that a rod of initiation showed up, and he was holding it, and he said that's been a 20-year process of his spiritual search, and that somehow in this whole meditation some sort of initiation process happened. So what he described with the idea of this witness, this observer being present during this meditation and this integration happening is exactly what the expansion and contraction meditation, the last one we did, is all about. And I'll just show you a couple of small things from this and then wrap this up. So in an expansion and contraction of consciousness, an analyzed meditation, as are the rest of them that I've mentioned here, you go up in your body mind to that, if you're capable of it, gamma, and integrate the sense of your higher self and your lower self, your gamma, with your awakened mind. So what you're producing is a gamma synchrony pattern. And here there was a really cool thing that I just want to show you. This one little channeling pattern. I didn't show it so well before, but you'll see it now, where he goes into the channeling pattern and he comes up into gamma synchrony. And we're just going to watch this whole thing, because here's the theory proved. This is asking him at this point to be in touch with the field and stay in touch with the harmony and bliss in the field, to be aware of source and essence. And look at his big old theta. He's at 5.6 on the lesh. His heart rate's very low. Look at these gorgeous channeling patterns. I'm telling you, they're just so classic. And he's doing doing exactly what he's being asked to do on a very deep level. There it is. That's a dead-on drawing of a channeling pattern with his eyes closed and him in stillness, unlike the channeling pattern that we may have seen before. But still, it's more of a channeling pattern than we have in our drawings and our website, because there's more gamma here. See that? See the difference in the more gamma beta here. And so he stays. Let's just watch him for a little bit. His gamma amplitude actually drops as he hangs out in this theta delta for a bit, and his harmony and bliss. He starts to, he's working his way towards some evolved mind patterns and a really big, so you're starting to see the rounding on the right, and a big gamma is going to come up at the end of this little segment here. See how deep down he is? All when he's connecting with source and essence. Just stays there. No sense of sleepiness. Well, he felt like he was hovering a little bit, but see, he doesn't lose his alpha, but his alpha peak is down at 9 hertz a lot of this time. So his alpha's staying there. So he never actually went out, but he's so far down. Let me back off a little bit here so I can see better. And then all of a sudden, all this time that he spent down here in this theta delta, he's going to blast up, and I can just speed this up a little bit, frame by frame. He's going to blast back up to his gamma, where he has these wonderful sensations of light and being in that higher consciousness. There he goes. Look at that. Hello. Okay, been down enough, recharged, reset, rewired, going back to my gamma. And in fact, at the Trans Tech Conference, I see, Gary, that you've joined us. That's what I was trying to say on the stage with Siegfried Othmer and John Cowan, is that people who go down, and for Othmer, it's infra frequencies below 5 hertz. So we don't know how low he was, because we couldn't see any lower, can't see any lower than 0.5 hertz. But people are recharged down there, and when they recharge, woo, they come back different, changed. Look at that, changed his whole pattern. But it's still going to be, it's still basically a gamma synchrony pattern. So that's a really big, lovely shift that he did, and this lasted for 3 minutes, and he felt it, and he said he was holding himself steady in the light. And at this point, from this point forward, just for the sake of time, take my word for it, it was just one evolved mind top, evolved mind bottom, evolved mind on the right, and then it would flip over to the left. Just all super higher state, lovely higher state patterns. I can zoom in a little bit for you. No more of that disorganization, no more of that instability, just all more than awakened mind patterns, all moving into the evolved mind flares. And then he had a big evolved mind flare when I said access to divinity and the earthly self at the same time. We actually had the temp meter working here, and he changed his temperature all the way. I think it went up to 92, started down at 89, went up to 92, and that was a big temperature change for him because he had previously changed only from 85 to 87. So you can see just lovely patterns. Evolved mind this, gamma synchrony that, all the way through the session. And then he, I won't show it to you, just tell it to you briefly, wanted to test his music that he had brought along. And he found that the music that was binaural beats by a particular manufacturer, nobody we've ever talked about before, really didn't give him very good brain waves and slightly disorganized, and actually made him feel groggy during one part of it. But then he played Christofori's Dream, and I don't know if you know Christofori's Dream. It goes dun 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 dun. Just this beautiful swelling orchestral sounds, and he listened to the whole thing. It was like 5 minutes, and look, again, it's just to go to show that we're all on the right track here. These were his highest gamma synchrony patterns yet. At training level 6, he had a 92% gamma synchrony. Training level 5, whopping 76% gamma synchrony. Which just goes to show that it's, in the end, all about love and joy. We can talk about these brain waves, we can talk about attentional focus and neuroscience and all we want, and even awakened mind training, all we want. But it really, in the end, it's what touches and opens the heart and makes the soul sing. And that's what happened basically with Garth and the whole week. His soul sang. He said at the end of the training, he filled out a feedback form for me, and he said that he came with curiosity and left with knowledge and experience, that the training provided an upward step in his years of exploring methods of change for himself and the clients he works with, and that his plan is to self-train for a year or so and then decide whether to have additional training so that he can use the mind mirror in helping others, which is great. So he got closer to that decision, which we certainly hope he makes. And that would get the mind mirror into that health network in Wisconsin. And he said that he's mainly aware of having landmarks to stages, states, and sensations, and that the mind mirror feedback has put him into a position where he's able to recognize the states he's experienced through the years, over the years, through numerous training and schools of therapy. He really appreciated having the opportunity and assistance in stepping forward. And it was quite a step forward, just to close it out, from the brainwave profile with what looked like, and probably was, gamma instability to begin with, all the way into relaxation and finding that he could drop that lesh down to 6 and continue to do so, and that he operates out of a consistent gamma synchrony pattern, and that just as the awakened mind enables us to go deep inside and get profound subconscious and potentially unconscious insights that help us understand more of who we are and what we want in life, that Garth's gamma synchrony, I don't want to say fueled, that's such an earthy word, let's say inspired by higher awareness, actually can overlay and rewire and more permanently connect us with something that is within us and that is higher and better, but that even is beyond us and is higher and better. And as he did his reading for me, help others in the process. And I know that taking this back to his clients is going to be useful and helpful for them. I know that was long, but I really wanted to give you a picture of what happens in the course of an intensive mind mirror training, where people are coming with a completely opened mind and not necessarily a ton of issues to work on, but some issues, and are open enough and willing enough to, and brave enough to address those issues and to clear them and to stabilize from flares, to stabilize a pattern that has only been flares into a solid, steady state pattern. That is indeed what we predicted is the way consciousness works, and Garth, by his willingness to explore the upper reachers, has just proved, and I've just shown you, is indeed the way consciousness works. Ta-da! That's all I have to say. Questions?
I have a question to you and Andrea, possibly. If, for example, we have someone very advanced, as you said, what are your favorite higher state meditations that you can recommend, and where people can find them if they're already, somewhere on the websites?
Well, let's let Andrea answer that.
I recommend some higher state meditations that are in my head, so I have to write down. I love to work with space, to go beyond time and beyond space, because what I found out that all these earthly things where you have a place and a rock in higher states, well, there's no place and no rock, it's just light and whatever. So I love to go beyond this language, and I'd like to develop some more meditations with this for this really high state things, where you go into a vortex of creation, where you go beyond the stars and where you go beyond the universe. So they're already in my mind. I have to fix them. And some of the higher state meditations, which are a little bit below the beyond time and space thing, that are recorded and are now in the studio. So we're waiting for the studio to come up, maybe in December, January. Maybe we could go online.
Yes, and that reminds me that actually some of these higher state meditations are free and on the IAM website right now. Andrea and I recorded Max Cade's higher state meditations last April, but we have on the website the Golden Pyramid.
Judith, maybe you can share screens and just show where to find them. It will make it easy, and you can read the name if whatever.
I'll do it.
Because you mentioned Microcosmic Orbit, by Anna Weiss, and then another version by Jim McRitchie.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? Those meditations are fantastic. So here on the IAM website is guided meditations. I'll just say there's two of mine down there that are just to help people connect with their alpha, give them an easy alpha experience. And also to teach them how to meditate, how to create a mantra and use that mantra to have a silent meditation. So these, interestingly, were provided to us by Peter Staples, and he said that Max and Bruce McManaway, a very powerful psychic and healer in England at the time, went to my Celtic Isle of Iona and recorded them there. I was so astonished. I mean, I wrote a whole book about my enlightenment experience, or at least illumination experience, however brief, on the Isle of Iona, and here Max knew about it. I was so thrilled. So all of these were recorded on Iona. So you see autogenic relaxation. This is very cool. That exercise and recognition of the central non-physical self, disidentification, relaxation alpha. This is a talk, 7 steps to healing and transformation. But now we start to get into the encounter with light. That's a heavy duty meditation. And so is the golden waterfall.
Are there PDFs on these?
Or there scripts, you mean?
Yes.
I'll let Andrea answer that. The pyramid, the rainbow, and the rainbow. So that's it. The pyramid, the rainbow, the golden waterfall, and the encounter with light. All higher state meditations. And then I recorded some of my higher state meditations with Andrea, and we need everybody to contribute these, because she's right. I mean, you can take off at the rock or the stone in the forest, but that's your launching place. And movement through time and space is really the key to the whole thing. Now Andrea, whether she's going to charge people for the scripts or not, I tell her she should. There's a lot of work in them. It would be fair. It's up to her, so I'll just put her on the hot spot and let her answer your question.
Well, Andrea, a nice a book of meditations that we don't have, that aren't Anna's, new meditations. Be happy to send you some money for it.
Yeah, there are some thoughts about doing a whole cooperation thing with Mindsurfer as soon as the online shop is ready, and so to have Mindsurfer premium partners and to share the contract or to share the PDFs with the Mindsurfer premium partners, and so to have them working for or do something for the web page, and therefore they get all the PDFs. So, but I have to think about clearly about this whole thing. So in the end, it'll be about more than 180 meditations as PDFs. So
that'd be marvelous. Have you ever used the Taoist inner smile meditation?
No.
There's it's a rather lengthy meditation that takes about a half hour and is somewhat similar to Yoga Nidra. Might be interesting. I have a copy of it that I haven't recorded, but it might be interesting to make a recording of that. So I might do that. Cool. Also, Judith, when you started to address me on what you were talking about, I got a phone call. Yeah, and I couldn't respond to what you were doing, but I was noticing on his pattern when he was dropping down, that the SMR, about 15 hertz, was staying very solid up there, and I think that's why he wasn't dropping into sleep. If he lost that, he probably would have gone all the way into, possibly dreaming or, sleep.
Good observation.
That little band up there was quite solid, and he seemed to be keeping that until he, shifted over and went back up into his overall gamma pattern.
Yeah.
So anyway.
It's a beautiful thing, isn't it, that you can drop into your subconscious and unconscious and be revitalized.
That's what we have to kind of surf that edge. You know, working, like I mentioned to you before, I was working, or am working with Tibetan dream yoga. And being able to surf that edge and take consciousness down into lucid dreaming is just the sort of the opening for that dream yoga. So one tends to work with that and then transcend it. Whereas in dream yoga, you're working more with sort of a psychological, Western psychological level of healing. In the dream yoga, you're beginning to transcend that level altogether. So it's a totally different approach.
You know, we still haven't seen the brainwave pattern of Yoga Nidra. I wish somebody would have that opportunity to study a Yoga Nidra, truly a Yoga Nidra expert. I mean, I've seen people drop into subconscious theta and delta, and I've certainly seen the article that ran in Yogi magazine by Swami Saraswati. Satchidananda Saraswati. And he postulates that Yoga Nidra is in Lesh 6. That made me postulate that Yoga Nidra is a delta only pattern, because Max Cade's book, you know, this table of subjective landmarks, how it's got on the right hand column, it says you get to 4 and it says continuous alpha, intermittent theta, and all of the previous ones have said beta's coming out, theta's coming out, so and so. But then you get to 5 and it says beta, alpha, theta, delta, meditation, or awake. It doesn't say awakened mind. I changed it to say awakened mind because 5 is an awakened mind. And then 6, then it says evolved mind. So it's naming the patterns in 5 and 6 instead of telling you just the brainwave state.
Yeah.
Like Max Cade did. And so if you look in his book, it's not called the table of subjective landmarks. It's called the subjective correlates of consciousness. And what he says is that 5 is state 6, Lesh state 6 is occasional flares of delta only. That's it. So he's saying that you go down, 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 you get to a 5, and then kaboom, you blast into an evolved mind pattern and higher states. He's saying you go down to go out and up. And that is what the Swami was saying. That's why he said that Yoga Nidra was a state 6. But still, that's an educated guess. If you guys can find, we need to see that pattern. I've said it's delta only because that's the way it looks, but I'm just guessing.
Now, have I ever sent you Anna's recording of the Yoga Nidra?
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay.
And we've all got it. I've given it out to everybody.
Good, yeah. I couldn't remember if I'd done that or not.
Yeah, it's great. People coughing and moving around. A live recording.
A live recording. It was just one of those spur of the moment things when we were doing a session at Esalen with her. And someone had a recording device and said, I'm going to record this. And they made a copy of it and handed it out to all of us, everyone in that group.
You got to find some Yoga Nidra practitioners, some experts, people who can do it, have done it 1,000 times before, and are operating in a field where everyone's doing it and they're all talking about it and they're 100% sure that's it.
Yeah, here it is. Just, you know, the last time I was working with Anna and she was talking about the Yoga Nidra, she was working with Richard Miller, who's here in Marin County, which is close by. In fact, she was in Marin County. and she was highly recommending his yoga nidras, and he has a number of recordings, which I haven't listened to in any length, but actually at the back of the book here is a CD with various yoga nidras. There's one 12 minutes, 8 minutes, 8 minutes, 6 minutes. Then he has a complete yoga nidra that's 35 minutes on the back of that.
That's funny. I've got that book and like it very much. What's cool about that book, the thing that I took from it and have used, is that he's got some brain physiology at the beginning of that book. Mm-hmm. And that's where I learned that that it doesn't matter what is our dominant sense, inner sense, it goes to the eye first. It goes to the visual first, way faster than anything else. Everything else, if you're dominant auditory and kinesthetic, it diverts to get there. I mean, I'm assuming it must divert to get there because everything goes to visual first. He's got some other interesting little tidbits in there that are I've found useful. But I like he's got a really nice tone that he writes in, and he's a real Zen guy, Zen-like guy. So I hope you guys enjoyed Garth's session, and I'm sure that we'll hear from him at some point, and maybe he'll join us on a program. I sure enjoyed yours, Andrea. Thank you for being so succinct. I was not, but I hope that drawing it out like that was useful to
Okay, thank you, Judith, and thank you, everyone. I think it was very informative and very inspiring session. For me at least, and it just shows how much more things we have there to explore with all these unusual higher states and people with unordinary abilities. And yes, we are calling out for people to do more studies of Yoga Nidra and whoever else is there available for high unusual states. So let's keep practicing and see each other next month.
Look forward to it.
Roxana.